Monday morning crypto talk with Bitcoin Brandon. So give me 1 second here. We'll get this thing set up. Hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your Monday morning. Mondays is always the most difficult. Great timing. It's learning time, Lewis. That's right. I always start my day off with learning something new in the space. If you ever want to be a professional in your field, then you've got to be a consummate consumer of knowledge in your field of study or in your field of where you're going to be making your money in. You've got to be almost, I don't want to use the word obsessed, but a voracious learner. Know what's going on. In other words, a professional. So a professional studies his craft. So I always begin my day learning something new in this space, and then in my evening before I go to sleep, learning something new in this space as well. If you're not learning, you're stuck. So we've got some, I think it's kind of been a quiet night. I didn't wake up this morning to any earth-shattering news, any people freaking out about anything. I haven't heard about any Captain Save-A-Bitcoins running their mouths anywhere. It's been relatively peaceful. But again, they also say, that's the quiet before the storm when that happens. Because in this industry, there's something happening every day. Good morning to you, Reginald, from Chicago. Go ahead and type in where you're listening in from. We got people that listen in from all over the world, and it's cool to see where people are chiming in from. So let's see. I haven't read any articles this morning, but let's see what's popped up on our radar today. And I apologize. I was supposed to have done like the Satoshi revolution last week. I apologize. I might get to it this afternoon if I don't take my nap. My nap comes first. Shauna from Charlotte, North Carolina. All right. This article, wait, what's this one? This is one for the women. And I posted it this morning too. Or was it last night? I think last night. Why aren't there more women in Bitcoin? And that's a good question. In the home-based business, you realize that over 70% of women who earn more than $100,000 a year are self-employed. Did you know that? More than 70% of women that earn more than $100,000 a year or more are working from home. In the MLM network marketing industry, it is made up of mostly women. But you only hear about or see about the men as leaders because the women, I don't know why in mass, I do know why. Let me change that, but we're not going to go into that. But the women haven't stepped up into the leadership roles in mass on the MLM side of things. Now, when we look at the cryptocurrency space, you hear about the Bitcoin millionaires and whatnot, but where are the women? Women could dominate this space. I say it all the time. If I was a woman, you give me 6 months. Not even that. In crypto, you give me 3 months and I'll make $1 million in crypto. If I was a woman, doesn't matter the program. You give me 3 to 6 months, millionaire, knowing what I know, and doing the things that I do, but I'm a woman, millionaire in 6 months. So let's see what this article. Somebody's going to ask me, why, Brandon? Why is that? Well, what does that mean? What is it? Why would there be a difference with you being a woman knowing what you know than you being a man knowing what you know? Well, it has to do with psychology. And I would have to have another Facebook Live just to cover that if people are interested. The power woman, the alpha women, why, women like to play the support roles mostly behind a man, even though that's not what they may say publicly. Actions, and this is the most important part, because I know I'm going to have some women on here that's going to be a screaming bloody murder. Actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. So yeah, you can say whatever you want, but where's the evidence? Where's the proof? See, the one thing in the crypto space, even a home-based business, there is no system to hold you back. There is no glass ceiling. There is no the good old boys club, because you don't answer to anybody. You are your own boss. You make what you want to make. So the things that hold women back in traditional 9-to-5 jobs, of that sexism, that's not the case for a woman that owns her own home-based business. She's her boss. So let's take a look at what this article has to say about this. It's asking, and I need to post this in the chat group for you guys. Albert, you trying to get me in trouble. You would need 3 more sessions to cover all that. And actually, you're correct. You are correct. There is no short answer to that, because again, not all women are the same either. But there's some basic common characteristics. And there's always exceptions to the rule. There's some women that are killing it. Boss style, killing it. I know one, she's doing she had her first $16,000 day. India. First $16,000 day in the crypto space. Killing it. All right, let's go back to the article. Take a look around the crypto community, both in meat space and online, and it would be fair to say that the majority of participants are male. This is borne out in a recent survey of 2,000 Americans, which shed light on the makeup of the Bitcoin space, highlighting a stark gender divide. In fact, analytics data estimates less than 4% of Bitcoin users to be female. Really? Now that is shocking. I didn't think it was that low. 4%? The question is, why? As news.bitcoin.com reported earlier this week, twice as many men own or have owned Bitcoin and are almost 3 times likely as women to buy Bitcoin in the next 5 years. Men also have a more positive view of Bitcoin, 17% versus 7%. So why do so few women get involved in Bitcoin? Well, it says tech industries are inherently male-dominated for reasons that include boys being introduced to gadgets at a younger age, leading to just 16% of computer science undergraduates being female. Despite initiatives designed to encourage more girls to code, the number of female computer science undergraduates in the UK has actually dropped in the last 10 years. Attributing other reasons to the absence of women in tech is highly contentious, as fired Google engineer James Damore discovered to his peril this year. In its earliest days, Bitcoin was a wild, wild west that evoked memories of the dawn of the internet, another piece of tech whose earliest innovators and adopters were predominantly male. A degree of technical knowledge was required to fully utilize the web back then, and the same holds true of Bitcoin even today. Let me read that again, see if I agree with this. He says, a degree of technical knowledge was required. So he's saying, is a degree of technical knowledge required to hold Bitcoin today? Yes and no. You don't need to have technical knowledge to buy Bitcoin, but I think you would need to have technical knowledge as to why you should buy Bitcoin. So I guess in that aspect, that could make sense. But I have my own reason on this. I'll explain later on. So while the UX of Bitcoin has since improved, thanks to development at the application layer, cautionary tales of lost private keys, coins sent to wrong addresses, and phishing attempts are still abound. And those are the sort of mishaps that can befall even experienced operators. For newcomers, there's a lot to learn, and that goes for both men and women. And that's not including the dogma surrounding Bitcoin and competing claims on which chain is true. If Bitcoin's earliest adopters are drawn from industries which are historically male dominated, it follows that later adopters will be less tech savvy. Newcomers of both sexes then find themselves with a mountain of knowledge to climb. That's true. I agree with that. That is true. But why does Bitcoin need more women? Well, it shouldn't need stating that the more inclusive Bitcoin is, the better. The cryptocurrency space doesn't need diversity quotas, but if it is to attain mainstream adoption, it needs to attract support from all demographics. Bitcoin can hardly be labeled a global payment and wealth storage system if it excludes half of the population. All right, stop right there. Bitcoin does not exclude half of the population. Half of the population is not interested in Bitcoin. You need to change that sentence, buddy. I don't like that sentence there. Oh, well, let me keep reading. While no one is stopping more women from getting involved with Bitcoin, little is being done to encourage them either. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me stop right there again. Okay. This is why you always need to watch who you listen to. All right. Just because somebody writes an article doesn't mean that they're God's gift to the planet and all knowledge. Bitcoin's job is not to encourage anybody. Bitcoin was born out of a revolt against the status quo system. It is what it is. Those who want to own their own money, currency, and control their own money, those who want to be able to live off the grid, those who want faster peer-to-peer transactions, those who want to avoid high fees, those who are sick and tired of the banks and the government being able to control us, and we have 2008 happen, and you lose your home, your 401k, your investments, your savings, you lose it all, and you're sick and tired and you're fed up with it, will be attracted to Bitcoin for what it can do and what it can use. It's not Bitcoin's job to encourage men or women to use it. It's up to us to see the value in it. So that has nothing to do with gender. Let me keep on reading here. Credit must go to the likes of Rion Lewis and Paige Freeman for organizing women in Bitcoin events in London and San Francisco. These exceptions, unfortunately, only reiterate that Bitcoin is largely a boys' club. Changing the status quo surely calls for action in the following areas. Okay, this looks interesting. What does he say? Behavior. If Silicon Valley's culture is overly macho, how to describe Bitcoin with its brash, combated, and opinionated personalities? To misquote Hunter S. Thompson, Bitcoin is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side. The cryptocurrency community is awesome, but it's also intimidating and filled with one-upmanship and braggadocio. So why would anyone want to join such a rabble? All right, let me stop right there. When I first came into crypto, all of this crypto talk was nerd talk to me. I was not interested in it. It did not appeal to me. I did not want to be in that good old boys Silicon Valley club. I saw value in Bitcoin for what it can do in my life. And I made the decision that, wow, this is something I need to learn. It doesn't matter that I'm a male or a female. I made that decision. And women can also make the same decision. So I do find this is not about this it's a intimidating braggadocio type community. Intimidating, yeah. Braggadocio, yeah. But you don't have to be a part of that community. I'm not. I refuse. And you will never, ever, ever hear me use crypto talk saying when I want to hold a coin, HODL, which stands for hold on for dear life, but I know where it came from. Somebody was trying to scream hold and spelled it wrong. And it spelled, instead of spelling it HOLD, they spelled it HODL. So that became the new lore of crypto land and I guess crypto talk. So everybody runs their mouth saying hodl, like freaking Game of Thrones. You know who I'm talking about if you're a Game of Thrones fan. Hold the door. Hold door. I ain't doing it. I'm always going to type HOLD. So I don't consider myself part of that community. And I don't think you need to be part of that community to take advantage of Bitcoin. I think it's more just a lack of knowledge, lack of access, lack of information for women. It's not in front of their face like it is for men. I'll finish that thought and I'm going to continue reading. Here's what I mean. By nature, by society, the men are the ones who are the natural breadwinners for the home. So men, by nature, are always thinking about how to provide for the family. At least this is what a good man should be doing. How to provide for the family, how to prepare for the future, how to have a plan B just in case I lose my job or shit goes wrong. These are things that we by nature do, or we're supposed to do. And when we see something like Bitcoin and we start hearing about it, we automatically start to think, okay, how can I incorporate this into our portfolio? How can I incorporate this into our lives as another source of a revenue stream so I can take care of my family? On that sense, yeah, men would be more attracted to Bitcoin first before women would on a want to provide for the family standpoint. But the women are the ones who do most of the shopping, most of the bill paying. They're the ones who control the money. It might be so in my household. I don't know about yours. But when the money comes in, it's the woman who is running the house. It's the woman who knows the needs of the household. All she needs is the resources. Whether she's providing those resources herself or relying on her husband to do so, she's in control. So from that aspect, I think that Bitcoin is going to be very popular for women once they start to see it that way. Since it's not being spent on a mainstream just yet, the most that the women are seeing and hearing about it is they might see an ATM machine, when they're going to the store or something. They might hear about it on Facebook. Because by nature, or I'll say by nature, by historical data, men invest far more than women do. So men are looking at Bitcoin as an investment. Women aren't. Not en masse. So that's why I think, let me continue reading this. And I hope I didn't take you guys way off on a tangent, but let's keep on going here. The cryptocurrency, yeah, I read that part. Issues such as off-chain scaling and Merkle roots might keep Bitcoin's most brilliant minds up at night, but its interface design, aesthetics, user-friendliness, and on-ramping that will open up Bitcoin to the masses. I agree with that. When it becomes much easier and simpler to set up a Bitcoin account, to be able to purchase and move around Bitcoin, to be able to within seconds be able to have the Bitcoin into a usable currency on your BitPay card, or you're able to work with it, then that makes sense, because I admit it is difficult right now for the average person or somebody that's brand new to try to set up their account. Then they've got to know the address. Then they got to make sure they don't send Bitcoin to the wrong place. They don't send it to a Ether address or a Bitcoin Cash address. And then you've got these multiple websites. Then you got blockchains and exchanges that you can purchase other coins from. And then you got to hold it in this wallet or that wallet. Then you got to worry about security and hackers. So from that standpoint of nerd stuff, yeah, that might not be appealing to the average woman to want to go through all that. Might be. So let's keep going. More can be done to reach out to women and raise awareness of Bitcoin and how it can benefit them. This is something that everyone in the crypto community could do better. There are ways to educate people about Bitcoin without succumbing to accusations of mansplaining. I had somebody, and I was just telling a friend this morning. I had a woman that basically asked if I could dumb it down in layman's terms or hood talk Bitcoin and stuff. And I kind of understand that because when I first came into the space investing in it, I was over my parents' house and my mom asked, "What is Bitcoin?" And I knew for my mom, I had to give her a simple answer without getting all into the technical stuff that I would have said to my dad. And so to my mom, when she said, "What is Bitcoin?" all I said to her, I said, "Mom, it's digital money that allows you to do peer-to-peer transactions without having to pay high fees. It makes things happen faster." She said, "Oh, okay, so I don't have to put money in the bank?" And then I said, "Nope." I said, "You can send money instead of having," remember when I was in college, and this was back in the day in the 90s, said when you wanted to send me money, you had to wire it to me, and I had to go down to Western Union to pick it up. And remember the fees, and sometimes it might take days? I said, now that happens instantly. And it's worldwide currency. She's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, basic, simple to understand." I didn't have to talk about the blockchain. I didn't have to talk about cryptocurrency. I didn't have to talk about what it was worth in 2009. I didn't have to talk about why it came because of the financial collapse and crisis and what wallet to use. I didn't have to do all that. I gave her a simple explanation. She got it. And then the rest she's picking up. So no mansplaining or splaining. So let me go on here. If egalitarian reasons don't spur developers into catering for women, financial incentives certainly will. There's a vast number of moms, sisters, girlfriends, and colleagues out there with high disposable income and a love for all things internet. This presents a huge business opportunity for whoever can figure out a way to get these women into Bitcoin and to get Bitcoin into their everyday lives. Bitcoin is amazing. It removes monetary control from governments, enhances privacy, and gives individuals financial freedom. And that's something that every man and woman on this planet deserves to experience. And that's the end of the article, but I want to add on to that. You know what it gives women as well? Ultimate financial freedom. Even from their spouse. They control their own money. One of my ultimate goals has always been, even for my wife, is to have enough money to give her like a black card that I have money on there. That's the no questions asked money. She could do whatever she wants with it, buy whatever she wants without having to asking, "Hey, can I have some money?" Or me saying, "What for? What do you need money for?" But women to be able to have complete freedom to do what they please with their money without their husband and even without the banks, I think is a huge attention grabber for women getting involved with Bitcoin, whether she's an entrepreneur or not. You know, for the women in my family, I'm making sure they're all going to have an account, an investment account in Bitcoin. You know, especially nieces and nephews, things like that. You know, for a high school graduation or a gift, give them a Bitcoin account so that they can grow on and they can invest in. But that's an interesting article. Let's move on. I spent more time on it than I wanted to. Let's move on. Here is news. And yeah, that's a good, you know what, another day, I'll make the whole one titled, and Christy, do me a favor. Your husband's shooting me a message right now, and I can't answer him because I'm doing a Facebook Live. So please let him know. Let Amos know. So, yeah, but like I said, I'll do another Facebook Live. I'll title it, you know, Women in Bitcoin, or Where are the Women at? Where are the ladies? So helping the helpless. And if you're just joining us, I just read that article, so you're going to have to go back to this recording to hear that. All right, helping the helpless. Charities are turning to Bitcoin and blockchain. You know, I forgot who said it. It was maybe 2 months ago. I saw an article that came out that said Bitcoin is going to get third world countries out of poverty. Out of poverty. So let me put this link in the chat box here. And let's see. This thing you can only earn money out of it's in your. All right, Amos has asked me a question. I'm not even sure this is it. Can you only earn money out if it's in your lending wallet? Yeah, correct. Anything that's in your lending wallet, that's what you can pull out. Hey, Chrissy, if you can let him know, yes. Let him know yes, because all the money you earn goes to your lending wallet, and that's when you can pull it out. So just shoot him a text and say Brandon said yes. All right, so let's go to this article here. Helping the helpless, charities are turning to Bitcoin and blockchain. When Hurricane Irma struck, it left a path of chaos and destruction in its wake, stretching from Antigua and Barbuda to St. Martin, Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas, Cuba, and the United States. The storm, which lasted from August 31st to September 11th, stretched across 650 miles and affected at least 9 U.S. states. That thing was a freaking monster. It was bigger than Florida. Streets were turned into gurgling rivers, houses and vehicles submerged, power lines and trees snapped like twigs, and over 100 lives lost. The aftermath of the storm left survivors vulnerable, with no access to clean water, food, and shelter. Communities and charity organizations quickly rose to the occasion, donating cash and, wait for it, Bitcoin. Hovering at $7,000 per coin, from just under $1,000 at the beginning of the year, Bitcoin has had a phenomenal year, defying predictions and smashing through several all-time high records. This growth has been fueled by increased usage and adoption of the currency by individuals, businesses, and now charities. I just had a thought, because it strayed while I was reading this. You guys know how when Bitcoin rises, it always has a market correction, and it comes right back down. Last week, you heard me do a video live. I said when Bitcoin was almost at 8,000, I said it's going to do a market correction and will come back down to probably about 5,500, stable off, and then it'll go up higher again. Well, that's looking at things from a micro level. When you look at Bitcoin from a macro level, the same theory applies. So if Bitcoin had a phenomenal year of 2017, you got to look at this from a macro event. That means that there's going to be a macro pullback, not a micro one, where Bitcoin will drop for a week and then come back up. But there's going to be a macro event. I predict, and I don't know if it will be 2000, I don't know where the top's going to be, whether it'll be 2018 or 2019, but we're going to have a dip of maybe 6 months or so. 4 to 6 month dip that people are going to scream, Bitcoin's crashing, Bitcoin's in a bubble, look, it's been months and it hasn't risen back, Bitcoin's over, and then it's going to shoot back up for even a longer period of time, because you got to look at the charts from a macro event. You look at Bitcoin from 2009, and as there was 1 year, it got up to $600, and then it dropped down to 100 for like months. So I just say that just to be prepared. This had a phenomenal year. It went from $1,000 to almost $8,000 in 1 year. There's bound to be a pullback on a macro level. Don't say I didn't warn you. But also don't get scared or scared, because when you look at the history of it, it's happened before. It will come right back up in a longer period, in a bull run on a macro level. All right, that's some trade nerd stuff right there. Got to learn how to read the charts. Let me keep reading. Let's see the aftermath. Yeah. Dogged by recent scandals and calls for more transparency, Charities are turning to the blockchain and its financial instrument, cryptocurrency, to make donation records easily accessible and accountable. Transactions on the blockchain are recorded on an immutable public ledger, distributed across hundreds of thousands of computers for anyone to see and verify. Due to its distributed nature, records on the blockchain cannot be altered in any way. Traditionally, you can't get your money back or determine how it's being used. Michael Young, a founder of blockchain-based charity organization Grace Token, told New York Times, "Now, we can specify a time or conditions for each donation." This is like for people that donate money to the Red Cross. How much of that money actually gets to victims? You know, the Red Cross can take in billions, yet only a couple of $1 million actually reaches the victims. Here, it's completely transparent. They can't hide nothing. It's going to be traceable. All right. Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency, was created in 2009 as a digital asset for peer-to-peer transactions without intermediaries over a public distributed ledger called a blockchain. Because everything is tracked, Bitcoin enables donors to easily see where their donation goes to after it leaves their wallet. You've seen numerous scandals where charitable donations end up being used for operating costs, said Andreas Antonopoulos, a Bitcoin expert. It's very difficult to see where a donation is going, but this could change that. This tracking mechanism is ushering a new era of transparency for both donors and charity, deepening their connection to humanitarian causes by providing them with a tool to see how their donations are being used. For Brad Hines, a digital marketing strategist in Boston, all he wanted to do when he sent funds from his Bitcoin wallet to the Red Cross was to help those whose lives had been devastated by the flood using an incorruptible medium. I like that. I like that article. Let's see. What is this one? Quantum physics and astrology predict bad things for Bitcoin. How long is this article? Let me read the other one first. I may say that one for tonight. Quantum physics and astrology. Here's the one I want to get to. And this is one you guys want to pay close attention to, because it's about Coinbase and the IRS. They've been in a battle this year. And that battle is the IRS wants to force Coinbase to release to them a list of everybody who has an account, so that they can track them for tax purposes. Earlier in the year, the IRS lost and Coinbase won. But, according to this article, Coinbase likely to lose battle to protect users from IRS Bitcoin tax probe. All that means is people ain't going to be using Coinbase no more. Most of the serious people don't. Coinbase is just, it's really good for a new person, because it's easy for them to go ahead and buy Bitcoin for the very first time. But it is not a place where you want to store, you want to do a lot of transactions through. So let's read the article. If you're a long-time Coinbase user and have neglected to pay taxes on your Bitcoin profits, you may soon find yourself in legal hot water, because a U.S. district court is likely to force the Bitcoin exchange to hand over records from thousands of U.S. customers to the IRS. As CCN has reported extensively in the past, the IRS has taken Coinbase to court in an attempt to force it to relinquish customer financial records to the tax collecting agency. The IRS claims that despite the Bitcoin price's astronomical appreciation over the years, only a few hundred individuals have reported Bitcoin profits on their annual tax returns. Under current regulations, Bitcoin holdings are taxed like property, meaning that they are subject to capital gains taxes based on the value of the coins when disposed of or sold. This means that I had this on mute. My apologies there. All right. Let me read that part again. Under current regulations, Bitcoin holdings are taxed like property, meaning that they are subject to capital gains taxes based on the value of the coins when disposed of or sold. This means that, legally, taxpayers are required to maintain detailed records of profit realized from all cryptocurrency transactions, even those as minor as purchasing a cup of coffee. Initially, the IRS requested records of virtually all U.S. customers from 2013 to 2015, which Coinbase estimates include more than 500,000 customers. Following pushback from the exchange, the IRS reduced that summons to approximately 14,000 customers, specifically those who bought, sold, set, or received the equivalent of $20,000 during any 1 year during the period in question. Despite the narrowed scope, Coinbase maintains that the summons is unjustified and invasive to our customers, and the company argued as much in a hearing held in San Francisco last week. However, Bloomberg reports that the court is likely to side with the IRS. They said, it's legitimate for them to investigate whether people are making money on their Bitcoin purchases and paying taxes on any gains. U.S. Magistrate Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley reportedly told lawyers for Coinbase at a hearing last week, I have to give tremendous discretion to the agency as to how they investigate, she added later. Indeed, the IRS has gone to extensive lengths to identify Bitcoin tax evaders. Earlier this year, a public records request revealed that the agency had contracted with a blockchain analytics firm to identify people who were likely using the cryptocurrency to avoid paying taxes. According to the IRS website, tax evaders face stiff penalties and potentially even imprisonment. In a blog post, Coinbase said it hopes to work with the IRS in the future to establish a reasonable tax reporting method that makes sense for virtual currency service providers and consumers alike. Here's my comment on this, especially since I am live and being recorded. Pay your damn taxes. If you make any money from Bitcoin, report it and pay the tax on it. Do not try, and I'm speaking for American citizens, do not try to game the system. Think, I can live off the grid and I'm going to avoid all taxes, and think that you're smart and you're going to do that. Because even though Bitcoin is anonymous, you do not know how technology is going to change in a couple of years. That's going to allow the IRS to have a smart, quantum-based computer that's going to be able to match up a web address or Bitcoin addresses to individuals, and they will go back on you and say, yeah, we noticed you made $3 million since 2013 in Bitcoin, and you didn't report any of it. You don't want to be in that position. You may get away with it now, next year, or the year after, but eventually, the one thing that is secure, one thing that is a definite in life, death and taxes is 100% guaranteed. Death and taxes. You ain't going to get around it, and they have more resources than you. So since I am being recorded, and this is live, that's my opinion. Pay your taxes. And watch very carefully what you're doing with Coinbase. Even though it's a popular one to use, the majority of Americans are have a Coinbase account for the first time. Be careful how you're using it, because all of that will be reported eventually to the government. Just be smart. That's all I can say on that topic. I don't want nobody coming down. Brandon said I don't have to pay taxes. No. You got me on record saying pay your taxes. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm not going to run off to South Africa because I don't want to pay taxes. Nope, I'm paying my taxes. Besides, you're going to make far more money anyway. Just bite the bullet, pay the taxes. And that is all for today. I'll put this link to the astrology and quantum physics, because that's a bunch of kind of nerd talk to me, and I'm not really, don't understand it too much. I might read it tonight on Late Night Crypto Talk, because it can be fascinating and has merit sometimes. So, for all of you astrology lovers, here is what does astrology have to say about Bitcoin? And I will cover that tonight. I'll save that for tonight. So thank you guys for listening to Monday Morning Crypto Talk. And as I always say, Monday mornings is the day and the time when people commit suicide the most. The third Monday of the new year is the biggest suicide day of the year. And the reason is because people just came off their weekend and they wake up on Monday morning and it's Groundhog Day, another week starting from the beginning all over again. Where they wake up and they rush off to a job in rush hour traffic for a job they don't like, to work with people they can't stand, to eat lunch at 11 when they're hungry at 12, or vice versa, to ask for permission to go to the bathroom as a child, to have a limited number of sick days and work days, to have to leave your kid in daycare because you have to work, to retire broke depending on family, government, and friends by the age of 65, to barely making enough money anyway to begin with. You don't have the resources to do anything else, but you can't afford to quit your job. It's depressing. And it's scary when you're living paycheck to paycheck with less than $1,000 in your savings account, hoping that the car doesn't break down right at the end of the month when you got to pay rent at the same time. You got to figure out which one's getting paid. How am I going to stretch $20 out to pay for groceries for the rest of the week? How am I going to pay for this dental visit or the doctor's visit? Trying to make sure you don't get sick so you don't miss work because you can't afford to miss work. And not seeing any way out. That's depressing. And the one thing that can save that is having access to more resources. And no matter where you are right now in life, you're one decision and 60 days away from a complete financial turnaround. And I speak from experience because I did it not once, but 3 times actually. This was my 3rd time I did it. I shared for the first time Saturday morning some information about myself that I never shared before. About where I was just 3 months ago, about where I was in my head, about being depressed, about not knowing what the future lay in front of me. And the only options I had made me want to think, is this even worth it? And I made a decision, and 60 days later, my life changed completely around. To the point where I make more money in a month than most people make in a year on a job. And I don't say that to impress you, to brag about you, just to let you know that if I can do it, you can do it. But you got to make the decision. So have a fantastic and productive Monday. Let's make that crypto. And let's give thanks for where you're at and what you have. God bless. Good day, everybody. Bye-bye.